Walking in what God has called you to be can sometimes be lonely, but what will be your reaction in the face of adversity? Will the opinions of others stop you from walking in what God has called you to? Let's have a chat. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. As you can probably tell by my voice, I'm a little sick, so pardon my low energy a little bit. I probably will still have some type of energy, but pardon my voice. I sound so raspy. Oh my god. You know the drill. I'm not gonna say much. I'm gonna add the little subscribe button, the notification bell. Make sure you stay tuned for the videos every single Wednesday. So today's topic kind of came about. I was just kind of thinking. I was kind of like, okay, God, what do you want me to talk about this week? And I went to a restaurant on Saturday with my friends, and it was a cool restaurant. We liked it. It was a little pricey, but we didn't think much about it. Overall, we thought it was kind of cool. And then I went on TikTok and I saw a review about that restaurant, and it ripped that restaurant to shreds. Like shreds. It basically said everything sucked, everything was awful, and I was kind of like, wow, like I could only imagine like the owner of that restaurant seeing that, where like, let's say God told him to open this restaurant and then he got that horrible negative review, and made me think like, what will be your reaction in the face of adversity? Because one of the things I had to realize is that God never promised a path of ease when we're walking in alignment with him. Matter of fact, you're gonna face a lot of challenges while you're walking in alignment with him. But it was one of those things where I was just like, what will be my reaction? Like, if that was me. And I had a conversation with one of my like mentors, and she was like, God is really gonna build you up to the point where like, even when you hear other people's opinions that are not good, or they're not great, or they're maybe like criticism, it won't matter, because you know that this is what God has called you to do. And as much as I want to say, yeah, other people's opinions won't matter, and usually generally they don't matter. Like I've been saying on this channel, this is our year of like radical obedience. When God tells us to move, we don't need no if, ands, or but, no explanation needed. We just simply move. And that's just been my thing. But it just kind of got me thinking, like, what if you were to get that criticism? Would you still be affirmed in what God has called you to? And I even think about in the Bible where, which this is of course a different topic, but in the Bible where Jesus goes like, they hated me first. Because sometimes you're like, oh, I think I'm trying not to misquote the Bible. God help me. I've been thinking about that. It's literal that like, even Jesus himself didn't let the opinions of other people stop him from walking in what God wanted him to do. So that was just something that I really thought. And another thing that made me want to talk about this is, I've seen this constant discussion on TikTok, and maybe I'm just delusional, or I have great friends, or a little bit of both, who knows, but I've seen this constant discussion online about like how people don't have friends that support them, how people's friends are like shady, they're fake, like they see their content but they don't like it. And this is also another part where I'm going to reference the Bible verse that I used in the last video, where it's Galatians 6:4, where it says to not be affirmed by others. And that is something that's so important when you're walking in what God has called you to. The same way we're going to move in radical obedience and we're not going to ask God for understanding, you also can't expect everybody in your life to understand what you're doing. And I even remember when I made the pivot on this YouTube channel, and I was talking to my sister about it, she goes, huh, like that's interesting. Not that she didn't want to support me, but like, she's only known me to do hair. She's only known me to talk about growing my hair business. So to now make that pivot on this channel of now just talking about God and talking about life in your 20s and all that stuff. And that's why I brought up this discussion of like your friends and family supporting you. That I feel like people have almost made their friends and families haters in their lives, which I don't necessarily think is true. Sometimes you will have those genuine haters, and that's cool and all. But I think sometimes these people are not going to understand, and that's okay. And I don't think you should chastise them for not understanding. And one of the things my sister told me a long time ago is like, you're the only person that's going to be the most excited for what is going on in your life. Well, you and God. And that's why I'm also very cautious when I share certain things with people. Not in a, they won't be happy for me, but they'll be as excited for me as much as they can be. Ultimately, God gave me the idea. It's between me and God. So I found myself sometimes like when I shared certain ideas with other people and they weren't like jumping off their rockers the same way I was, I started to doubt it. And where I think that's when people think their friends and families are being haters, which again, you might have them real haters, but I don't think that's always the case. I really had to work on that in the sense that like, I wanted everybody to jump off their rockers with me, like, cause like, I'm excited, why aren't you excited? And that leads us a whole can of worms where you just start to downplay what God is telling you to do, and you're like, oh, maybe it's not that important, maybe it's not that special. But like I said, it's between you and God. And that's why I kind of said, I don't know if I'm delusional or just my friends are good, but I really have never thought of it as like there being haters. A lot of times also, this is something that's also very, very important that I want to mention. A lot of times your friends are not your target audiences, and that's perfectly okay. Like, I love my mother and she watches my video. Love you, Mom. I know she's gonna watch this. But is she one of my target audiences? No. So again, I can't say, oh, my mom's being a hater because she didn't watch my video, which she does, but like, let's just say she didn't. I can't say my mom's being a hater. Or let's say I do hair. When I launch my knotless braids class, let's say one of my friends didn't buy it, and I'm gonna be, oh, they're being a hater because they didn't support me. That will sound ridiculous. They're not braiders. They come to me to get their hair done. So what sense would it make to purchase that? So again, I just wanted to reemphasize that a little bit of like, also kind of keep that in the back of your mind that like sometimes your friends are not your target audience, your family members are not your target audience, and they're not haters. They are simply not your target audience. And like I mentioned briefly, walking in the path that God has called you to, it does not mean that life is going to be easy. And I'm going to share a little bit of some prayer points that I've been praying recently, but I remember at the beginning of my business, the one thing that God gave me was peace. Like, when that, you know, that Bible verse where it says peace beyond understanding, I truly understood that as somebody who tends to worry about everything. God blessed me with clients every single weekend. It will literally be a Wednesday and I wouldn't have clients for the weekend, and I worked, I think, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and every single time, unless I wanted to take off, every single time God came through at the lot. Every single time. Even it'll be, like I said, it'll be at that last minute on Wednesday, God came through with a client, and that was just peace that I had. Where, like, when I talk that peace, I think about that peace sometimes. That peace, that was a good season. And I remember even being in those moments, there were times where I was like, dang, so there's going to be an other side to this, because that's how life is. There's ups and downs. Like the Bible talks about trials and tribulation. Though the weapons form, they won't prosper. It didn't say the weapons won't form. They might form. They just won't prosper. And I remember thinking about like, dang, there'll be a season where this is not so it. And I'm kind of sort of in the not so it season right now. But it just kind of made me, but I remember just thinking that like, that will also be another time. And now in this season too, where it feels a little bit like, not so much now. I'm dramatic. Right now, me and God, we cool. We're good. A little bit of what I like to call like your Job season, where it's just like everything is going well, and it's just like, God, like there's some times where it literally feels like God told you to do this. You started it, and it feels like he dropped you in the middle of the wilderness. It's fog all around you. I was like, figure it out. Sometimes it really does feel like that. And it's just like, if you're dropped in the middle of the wilderness where it just feels like, God, what is happening? It feels like that Job season. Will you still keep going and knowing that this is what God has called you to? Or would you give up because you're in the middle of adversity? Will you keep pushing forward? Will you keep pressing forward even when it feels like it's lost? And I think that's a challenge for a lot of us. And a little advice that I heard recently that somebody posted was, when it feels like you're not hearing God, follow the last instructions he gave you. And that was just so profound to me, because I think a lot of times we feel like we're not hearing God. Like Job is like, God, where are you? Job was chatting. He was chatting to God. So even in times where it feels like, God, you called me on this path, I'm lonely. Where are you? You told me to do this, and now it just feels like you leave me stranded. Still talk to God. Still communicate with God. Share your thoughts. Share your feelings. Don't ever let the adversity stop you from walking and knowing what God has called you to. Don't let the adversity make you doubt what you know. You heard clearly what God has called you to. Don't let the haters, don't let the judgment, don't let the criticism stop you from walking in what God has called you to. Keep walking even in the face of adversity. Keep pressing forward even in the face of adversity. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Job, is that like, no matter what was going on, I think me and chatters, we not gonna shut up. We're gonna keep talking. So like, no matter what is going on, still keep talking to God. Just have conversations with God. I can't emphasize that enough. I'm like, I'm in the middle of wilderness. I can't see you. And which leads into one of the prayer points that I've been praying recently of, God, help me to see your beauty in this. It says in the Bible that God's ways are not our ways. And I think we have a very straight path to something. But knowing that God works in very mysterious ways. God works in very intricate ways. So I mentioned in like my thank God for the unanswered prayers, that in God Birth and a Purpose, which is this YouTube channel, he also caused me to grow my relationship with him deeper and seek him better. And not just to get my blessings, but to seek him truly for who he is. And that's just like, God just doesn't work in our ways. So I've been really praying that like, God, help me to see your beauty in things. Help me to see you in this thing, that like, even in this adversity, even in this trial, even in this like tribulation, I know that know that God is still in there, and ask him to reveal himself to you. It might not be what you think, but know that God is in it with you in that like intricate little mess, because you know that like God's way is not our way, and it's a little bit more, yeah, I don't know, just ask God to reveal his beauty to you. And I even went to a worship night last night, and it says, we're singing a song where it says, I want to see you, open the eyes of my heart. That's another song that open the eyes of my heart, Lord, I want to see you. Yeah, so really, really to pray. I'm going to go back to now the Bible verse of Galatians 6:4 that I mentioned in my last video, where it says, let everyone be devoted to fulfill the work God has given them to do with excellence, and their joy will be in doing what's right and in being themselves, and not being affirmed by others. I think one of the beautiful things is that I think when that happens and you feel a little bit lonely, you feel a little bit lost, you're kind of forced to focus on God and be like, God, let me just focus on what you said. What were the last instructions that you gave me? What was the word that you gave me? And let me just focus on that. You begin to find your hope in God. You begin to find affirmation in God, because if you try to seek your affirmation in others, you're gonna lead yourself astray. You're gonna lead yourself off the path, because you're gonna think people are doubting you, which they might doubt you. They don't know what God has told you to. The promise is between you and God. So seek your affirmation in God alone. Find your joy and your hope in the Lord. And another one that I've been praying, which is similar to the first prayer point, which is just like, God, build up my courage so high that other people's opinions don't sway me off your path. Because like I said, with that restaurant, honestly, I can't lie, if that was me, I will be like, it's a certain confidence that you need to have in what God has called you to. And the Bible verse that I've been using for that is Joshua 1:9, where it says, this is my command, be strong and courageous, do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I love that verse, and that's literally praying scriptures. Like, that's the only thing I know how to pray. I know how to pray scripture. So Joshua 1:9 is one of the ones that I've been praying of. Just build up my courage, build up my strength, to where adversity doesn't take me off the path that you have called me onto. And the last one is Philippians 4:6-7, where it says, don't worry about anything. Instead, present your faithful request to God, and God will grant you peace beyond understanding. I got the Bible verse right on camera for the first time. My gosh. I have my notes here, it's okay. Yeah, that's also another thing, to just ask for God that, like, God, I don't need to understand what you're doing. It's a little lonely, it's a little scary. I don't need to understand, but as long as I have your peace, I will be okay. God, let me have your peace. Yeah. Anyway, guys, I hope you got my point, and I hope my voice wasn't too distracting, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I just want to encourage you, like always, walk in the purpose that God has for you this week. Don't let fear, don't let anything stop you. I saw a comment, sidebar. I posted a video about, I might actually add it right now. An apartment complex being built. My first reaction was like, dang, another apartment complex? There's a new one being built like every other day in Jersey. But about a minute later, I was like, wow, that is somebody's answered prayer being built right before my eyes. It taught me two things. Number one, our action or lack of action is tied to somebody else's blessing. A lot of times in life, we're scared to take the next step. That business that you might want to start, there's somebody out there that's praying for their dream job, and whether or not they get that dream job is dependent on if you take that first step. There are 1,000,001 apartment complexes, but there's somebody praying for that dream apartment, and it's in that one apartment complex. Which ties into my second lesson. Just because something has been done before does not mean that you should not do it. Everybody has their different perspective, and one person's creative perspective on something is going to be totally different than another person's creative perspective. I say all this to say, set your ideas free so you can set somebody's blessings free. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want anyone holding on to my blessings because of fear or whatever. So yeah, take that next step. And she goes, amen, Kemi. Honestly, you're really a living testimony to this. Every time I see your content, it reminds me that I'm not allowed to sit on any gifts. We need to be good stewards. And I truly hope that that's what you guys take away from my channel, from all the things that I talk about and all that, is to really, really just be a good steward of the gift that God has given you. God did not promise us an easy path. God did not promise us a path of just, like, God did not, what was that movement that I just did? But he did promise that he will be with us. Emmanuel. God is always with us. The God who sees. He's a provider. He's a healer. I could go on and on, but God is with us, and I hope that this channel and this video has encouraged you to just walk in the purpose that God has for you. That wasn't even I don't know why I wanted to end it that way, but just, I really hope you guys have taken that away from this channel, to just walk in the purpose that God has for you, because it's really, really beautiful. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but yeah, that's it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. I need my bed. It's nap time.